This is not what I wanted to hear. This is definitely not what we want. Dang it. I was going to be on camera, but it's late and I'm frustrated and I just had to talk about this because it's such a bummer, right? Well, let me explain what's going on and then you can decide if it's a bummer. Let me know in the comments down below if this Splinter Cell news rubs you the wrong way. So as you know, we've all been waiting a long time for Splinter Cell. I feel like every time a major gaming convention rolls around, it's supposed to be the time for Splinter Cell. And I surely thought at this E3, Ubisoft would trot out Sam Fisher. And then they did for their mobile game. Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. If you want to use tactical RPG action on your phone to move Sam Fisher and the ghosts from Ghost Recon, it's just not even, no, it's not the same. So I'm hoping that eventually it gets announced, maybe Gamescom, maybe the Game Awards, and then I read this. Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot did an interview with GamerSky, a publication over in China, and he talked about Splinter Cell. But instead of teasing a big, bold, new Splinter Cell, he says that Splinter Cell is looking to offer some new type of experiences, but more on different devices. We are working a little bit on the brand today to come back at one point. We can't say when because as you know it takes time, but each time we have to find the right experience to come back big. No, not new type of experiences on different devices, Yves. All we've asked for is a tried and true Splinter Cell that takes advantage of the current gen hardware. Or if you can't make it work this gen, then put it on PS5 and Xbox Scarlet. Those games were so good. The initial Splinter Cell titles were some of my favorites, and even the later games, even though they deviated a bit and got a little goofy, I still really loved what they were all about. And I know that Blacklist underperformed. They were planning on 5 million copies sold, but by November of 2013, they reported that it had only sold 2 million copies and that they were very disappointed with sales. So I understand you haven't been able to do anything in a while. You've been pushing Far Cry and Assassin's Creed over and over, and even Ghost Recon. But hasn't it been long enough? And it sounds like they're going to bring this back via VR or more mobile affairs. It sure does not sound like a big bold Splinter Cell is in the works when they say some new type of experiences, but more on different devices. Each time we have to find the right experience to come back big. Now maybe I should be optimistic and perhaps subscribe to the theory that Splinter Cell and Sam Fisher need a smaller affair in order to build to a bigger affair. Sort of like Lara Croft. In 2010, they released the awesome Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, a downloadable puzzle platformer, which eventually led to the Tomb Raider reboot in 2013. And then they doubled down on Guardian of Light with Temple of Osiris in 2014, and of course we got Rise of the Tomb Raider in 2015 and Shadow of the Tomb Raider in 2018. So maybe this smaller project does lead to a new trilogy or a new set of games, but it's been far longer since we've seen Sam. And I'm really thinking that what Yves is talking about is a VR title. Because earlier this year, there was a report from The Information that Facebook had signed an exclusive deal with Ubisoft to bring Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell to Oculus VR. Now, by itself, that's pretty cool news. Knowing that we'll get some really neat VR experience for two of the top franchises in gaming, like that could be exciting. But if that's the only way that Splinter Cell is going to arrive in our living rooms, is via VR something that not a lot of people have, and frankly not a lot of people like, why? I don't want that to be the only way we get to pull off cool spy moves. If you're a VR fan, I'm sure you're pumped about the prospect of Sam Fisher coming to your Oculus, but for all of us that just want the traditional console experience, what are they doing? Why can't they just give us the game that we want? And maybe it does just come down to facts and figures, and they weren't able to push enough copies of Blacklist to justify a new one in this era. Blacklist released August 20th, 2013. So we're coming up on the 6-year anniversary of no new Splinter Cell. I remember playing the game at one of my very first E3s when I started YouTube. It has been that long. And if we looked at Tomb Raider as the comparison, it saw a 2-year gap between Underworld and Guardian of Light, and then a 3-year gap between Guardian of Light and Tomb Raider. So in totality, a 5-year gap. Well, we've already eclipsed that with Splinter Cell, and we don't have the smaller, really cool, neat downloadable game. I remember when my concern was that they would Ubisoftify Splinter Cell and turn it into an open world, map-filled fest of side quests and collectibles and dumb little hunts. And now that version of Splinter Cell seems super awesome because here we are worried that they're going to make a VR game and a mobile game and not even give us a Ubisoftified, Far Cry-ified Splinter Cell. We're probably getting no console Splinter Cell, at least for a substantial period of time. And I think we will eventually get it, so maybe don't get too upset here. I'm sure Sam Fisher one day will return. It's just frustrating to know how many people have wanted this for so long. And it makes me think that either this subset of gamers who post on Twitter and interact with message boards and comment on YouTube is such a small sector of the overall gaming populace that maybe there just isn't a big enough fan base for Splinter Cell. But then I look at how disappointed companies get with sales, and if we're going to draw another Tomb Raider Splinter Cell comparison, remember how disappointed Square Enix has been with Tomb Raider's sales, even when it pushes millions of copies. It feels like it's really hard these days to just let a developer make a really good game. Whether it's insane sales expectations or requiring a games as service model, there are all these parameters that box these titles in and seem to prevent certain AAA titles from becoming the awesome experiences they could become merely because companies, publishers, and I guess at some level, the gamers themselves want things a very certain way. And what have we set up here in the gaming industry where your title needs to sell 10 million copies to break even and to profit and to make the overlords happy? I'm not sure I like that future, but it's the one we've got. And I hope that they're able to find some way to reset some part of it so we can have creative expression in the AAA space for next gen. If you look at how many new trilogies were formed this generation, the PS4, Xbox One cycle, it is very hard to name any. We have a bunch of good standalone games. We even have a few 2-packs, some sequels. But remember last gen when we had trilogies like Batman Arkham and Uncharted, BioShock, and Dead Space. We don't get that very often. We don't get very many new IP that carry themselves forward into a big successful franchise. And some of that is probably because of this issue right here, where the risk is too great unless you can guarantee mega sales. So I'm bummed that Yves and Ubisoft are probably taking Splinter Cell to a platform I don't prefer. But let me know your take in the comments down below. Does this ruin your night knowing that Sam Fisher is probably going to be coming back in goggles? Or are you okay as long as you get more Splinter Cell? Doesn't matter if it's on Oculus or iPhone, you just want more of it. Or like me, are you just waiting for that real Splinter Cell game that's probably going to take years to get? Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Curious to hear your take on all of this. I'll be reading and responding, so get into those comments. Until next time, thanks again, drink some hot chocolate, and we will see you all later.